Raila Odinga was the candidate, one of the three candidates for the post of AU Commission Chairman in Addis Ababa.
Yes.
And he managed 7 rounds. Until now, the winner was declared in the 8th.
It was in 6 rounds? Why are you laughing at me?
Pull out at the 6th, yeah.
I
He's
know
looking
why.
at your math.
He's looking at my mathematics.
So the big thing here is that the result, there were very many people who are in this country who are sure and confident, and those especially in his campaign team, and President William Ruto as well, sure, confident that they've done the best that they could to put forth a candidate and put forth a strong campaign for Kenya's candidates. And it goes into round 1 where he has more votes than everybody else. And then the Madagascar candidate drops out as is required. And then those votes seem to have moved into Djibouti and not coming to Kenya. And then you start looking at that and wondering, so what exactly went wrong? What happened? What does that mean for Kenya as a country? What does that mean for Kenya's foreign policy? Someone like Don Sabo was saying, we need to fix our foreign policy ASAP because of what this is showing. What does that mean when you look at the kind of commentary that you saw on X, on social media, on Saturday? Mixed reaction. Very many people coming to say, yes, yes. Others saying, ay, man, it wasn't so good, and so on and so forth. But let's first set the stage by looking at the 2 important people in that conversation on Saturday. This is Raila Odinga himself and President William Ruto. They had already prepared a room where they were going to celebrate. After he wins, they were going to be into this room with very many Kenyans and friends, and they were going to celebrate. And they went there now to say, okay, we are not come to celebrate, but we live on. The first one, let's watch Raila Odinga himself.
Tukishindwa tutashinda. Tumeshinda. Tumeshinda. Therefore, I will not regret it. I am walking with my head tall. President Ruto did everything possible. For this campaign, they gave me all the logistical support that we needed. That enabled me to travel around the length and the breadth of the continent.
Yeah, so he got a lot of support from the government of Kenya, and President William Ruto took it, upon himself to even secure meetings with other leaders across Africa. Go in there, go in here, dedicating a budget. You have the budget, wake up, go. Before we even get into looking at now the reactions, let's hear President William Ruto, who also spoke at that Thanksgiving dinner.
And I have a regret for Africa that they missed an opportunity to be served by the finest.
Africa lost an opportunity to be served by the finest. He also said he was really, really proud of his brother, Raila, because his brother, Raila, was very energetic in this campaign. Whenever the president would secure, an appointment for him, he'd tell Baba, Baba, kimbia West Africa. Baba would be like, Sazawa, ndege, gone. And he says, you did the best that you could.
You did everything
in your power.
In your power, except read the room.
Woo.
So,
Ebu read the room for us, Janet.
You did. The room was clear from early on. That's not discounting to your point that the appointments were made. Go see him, go shake hands. That's one vote in the basket. You didn't read your homeroom well enough. And I think this is going to serve as a testament that you can no longer discredit what is happening on the ground. You can try and, you can sprinkle it. You can, fly jets above it. You can wear suits against it. You can do whatever you want to do. But when there is a shaking tree and the shaking of a tree, you can't really, first of all, you shouldn't afford to, but you also can't afford to. What is the room? The room is something that we've stated many times, right? So on the Pan-African level, I think I do believe that they were listening and watching and seeing when people spoke out last year. They were not blind to it. And it's been incessant, by the way. It has been nonstop from June 25th. Nonstop.
Right.
It hasn't really wavered. Sometimes it dips, but it doesn't dip because it maybe dips because there's something else massive happening.
Right.
But the
Not
room
because
was
people have
clear.
forgotten.
We feel that he could have stood with us at a time when we thought that we could shift this country into the leadership we believe that we need. We thought that we would be able to get somebody who could, for once, just really show us that, you know what, we can move with young people and really move with them towards the ballot and towards really trying to reset this continent. Then you pulled a fast one.
Right.
And so you didn't read the room. But they had read the room a long time ago. So yes, even though in the first round there were certain people who voted, did they want to risk somebody who, in a sense, isn't quite understanding national politics or kind of dismissing it? That's a risk. Also, I do think that our leaders have delusions of grandeur. They do. In your mind, you are mega. And I think the number one thing to understand and recognize is that nobody is. So this is not to throw shade and say, we can say we're mega. Nobody is. Nobody is more important than the people that you're meant to serve. We here on this platform, we are working with the citizens. We're working with people to try and make sure that we're communicating issues that people can take home. We're not here sitting saying, I have a platform, therefore I'm bigger than you.
Right.
Delusions of grandeur will always finish you. Pride always will. Now, it doesn't mean that this is the end for Raila Odinga. I think he is respected by many people. He has a history. Yes, he's lost several elections, but it doesn't mean he's completely, a lot of people are like, is this time for retirement?
Right.
Should he perhaps consider? I don't know that that's the conversation. He's the only one who can figure that out. What we need to do when it comes to things like foreign policy, when it comes to things like our stand on the continent, we're just no longer the big boys. I don't know that we've ever actually had a solid foreign policy, but I do think we have to clean house. You know this thing of trying to, your house is dirty, but you go to your neighbors to have tea because it's cleaner. You can't do that. You have to clean your house, you have to sweep it, you have to sanitize it.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that. We're leaving a dirty house to go next door to say, Nisaidia na chai, my cups are all in the sink. I can't use them anymore.
Yeah.
So we didn't read the room. And we continue to not read the room. And eventually, I don't know what happens eventually.
I have a good
I've said many
idea.
things.
I hope.
Sijui kama nimejibu swali.
No.
Drop the mic.
Okay.
What?
No, but ni ukweli.
Sasa ngoja
She's
usikie
so
sasa.
passionate. No, I agree, honestly. One, the delusions of grandeur. There's one thing. So I was worried initially about us, because people celebrated the loss, and we'll talk about that a bit later, but us confusing correlation not being causation, right? So we may think that it's because of what happened here that Baba lost, but really maybe it was never in the bag for him. Maybe it was always just a strict game of numbers and he just never had the numbers. Until now, you see the Madagascar candidate drop out of the race, and you see these SADC votes go to Djibouti. Then now you have to the Djibouti candidate, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. Then now you have to ask yourself, what was the swinging factor, right? Why did the South and that region decide to vote for Djibouti as opposed to Kenya? Because that's really what it is at the end of the day. And then you're right. It's probably because our international relations have not been at their best. We have consistently chosen, I don't want to call it the wrong side, but to some extent for the continent, it is the wrong side. Whether it's about our stand on the genocide in Gaza, not calling it a genocide, abstaining from votes, or voting with the wrong side, honestly. Whether it's President Ruto deciding to call Macron and have a conversation with him without having a conversation with the president of the DRC, or one that was not privy to the public, you know? So that's, again, an issue of perception. So you're right, did not read the room. And the fact that he was being fronted by the administration of the day certainly did not help him. And this was the same exact issue in 2022. You were being fronted by an administration that people were tired, sick and tired of, right? But still, you decided these are my people, and you felt secure in that. Same way he went with 100 people, felt secure in that. And it's like, no, nobody likes these people that are fronting you. Nobody is with them. Nobody's with their politics. No one is with their ideas.
You know, there are very many things that are coming up, and even in the conversations throughout last week, into the election day itself on Saturday, into Saturday evening and Sunday, and even now, if you look online, there are very many reactions, and they are mixed all over. We're mixing very many things. So first, like Mariam, you're saying, this could be just the numbers play because of the geopolitics, you know, French, Francophone speaking countries, the Anglophone speaking countries, the Lusophone countries, the Arabic countries, the Muslim countries, the Christian, all those, plus the regional blocks. It could be that. And Janet, you're also bringing in that, but also those people are seeing what's happening in Kenya. And it could be playing a role in this year. And not to discount any of them, but those are very many factors that could go into play. And I'm not sure we can say that, you know, Djibouti has the very best clean record in terms of, you know, governance in Africa, that therefore people could say, you know what, Djibouti stands as a big console, therefore let's be led by Djibouti. I'm not really sure, you know, that would come into play. It's just the tribal politics of Africa. We are tribal as a continent. We look at ourselves, you know, from various corners. Us guys from the south, us guys from the east, you know, us guys who speak English, these guys who speak French, you know, and so on and so forth. And there are very, very many things at play and all that. So we want to hear your views on this. What exactly do you think? Because even Raila said very many other factors actually came into play on the day of the voting. And we had also been warned of this. Mukhisa Kitui had told us here when he was here last week. And he mentioned, you know what, there are very many factors that go into play. When we spoke to Ambassador Macharia Kamau, the former PS for Foreign Affairs, who was also involved in the campaign for Amina Mohammed twice at the AU and at the WTO, said politics of diplomacy is a whole different ballgame. You've got to know what is happening around the world, and you've got to know how to play in that way and sway. And we remember we asked him, do you think that we've picked our lessons from those two failed attempts? And he was saying, I certainly hope that we have. It shows that maybe we still have some way to go on this. We're going to take a break, but as we take that break, we want to see what people are saying, because they are saying things. There
is so much feedback. I'll start with some on YouTube, and then you, Eric or Mariam, can come in as well. But I know Sami Kambo is starting with, I did ask, how sure are we that Ruto himself voted for Raila? It was a secret ballot. Okay, that's something. Somebody else here said Raila might be the most qualified candidate, but the intentions of the people supporting his candidacy might not be genuine. I'm just curious to know how much taxpayers' money was spent on the whole AUC thing.
Tutajua too. That's a great question. How much taxpayer money was spent there? And to the same question, of course, what should Raila's next move be? Something that's also being discussed in the comment sections. Someone said, David Mangera said, Kenyan politicians went for a team building to Addis, walichoma manze. Honestly, 100 people. Doing what? Because we agreed here that you're not going to go sway a president's decision. There's no lobbying you're going to do there. Now,
Mariam, if you wanted to pay for your ticket to go because you really support Baba, what's wrong with that?
Did they pay for their tickets to go? There's nothing wrong. If you support Baba, by the way, by all means. But did they go on their own dime, or was it taxpayer money? That's where the question of how much was spent on this campaign.
See, the distrust that citizens have with their government.
We do.
Yeah, well, you see, a government official has boarded a plane, you know, we just don't trust. Very many comments, but let's take a break. When you come back, we'll start again with some of your comments. We want to see to hear and see your views on this. What do you make of the events in Addis Ababa on Saturday, and what should happen going forward? What are the options for Raila himself, for President Ruto domestically and politics, and what are the options for Kenya? This is a second election in a row that we've presented a candidate and we've lost at the AU. What does that tell us about ourselves? Time for that break. We'll be back shortly. So the community of fixers online is really, really busy on this particular conversation, which is Adios, Baba. What happened to the Kenya's candidate on Saturday at the AUC chairmanship position, and the results as we saw. What are the next options? What is it? What are the lessons that we should take from this as a country? What are the lessons that they should take from this as Raila Odinga and as President William Ruto? How do we move forward? You can also call us so we can have this conversation. Who's online, Jackso? Pauline, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you very much for calling us. And
welcome and thank you.
You're in Nairobi, aren't you?
I am.
Okay, so what do you think happened on Saturday, and what are the lessons that we should carry going forward?
I'm still wondering if anyone ever thought that Baba would win. One, we are moving on with the issue of rewarding people politically because of because they lost. So our first mistake was giving Baba that position. I think we had better leaders to give in Kenya as a country. One, considering his age and the people that he was up against, his age was a very big disadvantage. Because as you know, the AU chair's job is a person to take notes and to do so much work. So did we ever think that Baba would be in for it at his age? So I think Kenya, we did it wrong from the word go, and that is why Baba lost. And Baba was supposed to just lose, and that is my view.
So, Pauline, you think that the presidents who voted looked at Baba's age and they thought that he is not strong enough for the job?
Yeah, really. There were people against him that could do the job better.
Okay.
But we rewarded Baba politically. That is what we do as Kenyans. And we need to be very worried because a country like Tanzania not voting for us, who is our neighbor, really, we are doing badly.
Thank you, Pauline. Thank you for your call. Also, if you can call us 0719-038-858, we will take your call as well. What are they saying on YouTube? Because they have very many comments that we have seen coming in on YouTube. What's the conversation there, Janet?
What is the conversation? I think I'd mentioned what Omari had said about being certain that taxpayers' money was used and let the government tell us how much it was. Star Kenya crediting Mariam for just having an objective view around this whole issue. What else is there? Baba should reclaim his leader of opposition role. That is Ray Wangila. And Kipngeno says Kenya did her best. Let's accept the loss. Okay, so just saying, look, we tried. We threw our hat in the ring. It didn't work. Let's accept the loss and try and see it as, I don't know, let's move along. Let's not dwell. I think there's also a sense that some people are like, are we dwelling so much on this as it was such a loss? It was a terrible loss for the continent and for the country.
I mean, not online.
Right.
Not on Twitter.
Not on Twitter. Nope. We need to see comments on X. Pauline has mentioned something interesting about, do we always reward? We want to reward. We want to say, let's reward Baba. He's been a leader for decades, right? He's been there through so many transitions and governments. Let's reward him. But that also didn't work. And so I think the next question will be, what's next for Raila Odinga?
That's a great one.
I think right now probably...
Do you think it was a reward, though?
I think it was, what's the opposite of a... No, let
An
me
inducement?
keep you... Yeah, let me keep you busy. Here you go. Play with this so you don't disturb me while I do my serious work.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
is that a reward? Or what do we define as a
I don't know
reward? Is yes, you've held forts in many ways. I think this is something for you. That's kind of a reward.
Okay.
Interesting what Mariam is saying as something.
But however we look at it,
distraction is what I'm saying.
however we look at it, whether it was a distraction, whether it was, just political, games at play here. So here is something for you, as a reward. Does he qualify? Was he qualified?
I mean, I think a lot of people have agreed that he what is the qualification? Also, if we can dig deep into that.
Yeah.
Another question almost.
Do you understand the continent?
Yes, you understand the continent.
Do you have the gravitas to actually go into that AU Commission chairperson's position and run the secretariat, and that people from across Africa who work at the secretariat would listen to you, would follow your lead? That if you went to a meeting across Africa and you're saying, all right, so there's a conflict in Sudan, and as the AU Secretariat, we are coming in to have to address this issue. Would they listen? Would other African countries listen to, you know, the person who's coming in as the AUC chairperson to say, we are addressing this issue, there's hunger, there's drought, there's famine, the same things I'm saying, there's flood, there's this kind of disaster, or there's a political turmoil, there's all these things that need to move Africa forward towards Agenda 2063.
Yes.
He fits the bill.
I don't think our candidates have ever not qualified.
Right.
I don't think so. Previously and even now, they qualify. These are people who are smart, who are well-traveled, well-read, well-versed on politics of the continent. I think now we realize that it has to be more than that, and I think that's what has cost. Jackso, are you saying that there's a caller on the line? All right, we have Frida Karani on the line. Frida Karani, thank you so much for calling in. Tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on everything that transpired this weekend and what you think the lessons are from that as well. Yes, Frida, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Janet, for this opportunity and for this wonderful program on fixing the nation, one conversation at a time. I think it's a very timely program. And what I want to say about Adios Baba is that the government of the day, as usual, ignored Kenyans and maybe everyone on social media. Remember the other day we had someone who was telling us that they can, CS Kabogo said he can switch off the internet on us and we have no power. And of course the other day Joho was also downplaying the power of social media. But I think when Kenyans go on social media and complain, it goes global. And we are in an era where nobody ignores internet. So I think when we fronted him for our candidate and everybody in Africa, you know, the other presidents could see on media that Kenyans are complaining, Kenyans are not happy. I think in their mind and in their hearts they thought, is this the person we want to lead the African Union? So what I would charge the government of the day is really not to ignore any platform or any mechanism that Kenyans are using to express their dissatisfaction. And of course, our own Baba carried the tag of a betrayer. He fed on the sufferings of Gen Z during the Mandamano to get into government. So even to the rest of the continent, it was clear that these people that are being supported by government at this point in time have more of their selfish needs. So if they don't look into the needs of their children, will they understand the needs of Africa? And, you know, I remember the last time we had somebody in Kenya interested in this position, CS Amina, the manifesto was actually good. They had a very good understanding of the African 2063 agenda. But they forget it's not just about how you speak, how well you speak, how well you look, how much you're supported, but also your character shows. And I think that is where we failed as Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frida. I think that was really insightful. And what you said about character goes back to what we've been trying to pull at, because again, on paper, like Eric was saying, I think he does qualify. He does meet the qualifications on paper. Was Mahmoud perhaps a better candidate from a diplomacy perspective? That seems to be what the continent felt. But to Frida's point, integrity matters. To your point, Janet, integrity matters. To represent the unification and the Pan-African, movement at such a stage requires you to be a unifying factor. If at home you're divisive, how will you be a unifying factor on a global scale?
I like that. And yeah, Frida, thank you for saying that. I want us to almost take a look at...
Why is Eric laughing?
Eric is ready. He's just like, let me... But I want to raise something.
Okay.
In a few years, Eric, I hope you don't forget your point, but I'm really trying to fast forward to the next time that this opportunity is presented to us.
Yep.
I'm really curious about the kind of... I don't know whether this will shift how we perceive ourselves on a Pan-African global stage. And I'm really curious to fast forward years from now. We have the same opportunity. We're vying for an AUC chair. We're fronting who? What is happening in the country that will let us win? I'm really trying to kind of look into that.
I do not think that anything that's happening in Kenya made any of those presidents vote the way they voted.
You don't think so?
I do not think so.
How so?
I think it is just the tribal politics of Africa.
It can't be that alone.
It has to be
it cannot
the
be
tribal
that alone.
politics. Dr. Muhisa Kitui told us this, and we're going to replay that clip, right? It's about the tribal politics of Africa. The Francophone voted to a man this way. The SADC people voted to a man this. You can't tell me that all the countries of South Africa were looking and seeing the kind of person that we have in Kenya. And
when
they
the
said,
SADC
no,
candidate was out of the voting, why did they seemingly vote for Djibouti?
Because that's how they had decided to go. As a tribe, as a bloc, their Murima went to that candidate. As a Murima. Let's go back to the phone lines.
Okay.
Jackson, who do we have on the line? Hamisi.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you for calling in from Mombasa. How are you doing?
I'm fine, and you guys?
Tuko salama kabisa, twashukuru. What do you make of this?
Naitwa Hamisi kutoka hapa Mombasa. And I've been following this AUC. Wajua siasa ya Kenya, Wakenya wanataka kufanya siasa Afrika kama siasa ya Kenya, which is very impossible. Hii debe, ukiimagine kama kweli Raila alikuwa ndio apite katika uchaguzi, yeye obviously alikuwa apite. Tulikuwa na wabunge karibu 50 hapo kwa kumpigia debe. Haya, tulikuwa na mawaziri hapo mpaka na rais wa Kenya. Wagombezi wengine nao hata wakuwa na utakupigia debe. Bachaza kugeuza politics za Afrika uzilete kama za Kenya, unafanya watu wote wanaangalia huyu bwana anataka kufanya Afrika ikuwe kama Kenya, kupoteza watoto, vitu kama hivyo. Siasa saa yote fujo na uongo mwingi. Afrika tunataka tusonge mbele.
Okay.
Na vile tunataka tusonge mbele, lazima tuangalie tunahitaji Afrika ikae kama nini. Kwa mfano, ukiangalia statement ya rais wa Ethiopia ambaye ndio jirani ya Djibouti, statement yake ilikuwa safi sana wakati alikuwa anatoa statement yake hapo. Na hiyo ilichangia tu naiba yake apate kura nyingi kuliko kupeleka wabunge 50 na mawaziri wengi tu kule kumpigia Raila debe. Wakati wanataka kuangalia kile kitu ambacho tunaongelea ni kitu gani na tunataka nini. Huyu rais alisema hakuna kuangalia mambo, tutaangalia mambo uchumi, ambao uchumi wenyewe hatuwezi ukuza kama tuna watu wako mbele yetu wanataka tufanye vile wanataka wao, like Western and Europe. So ni mpaka tuangalie injustices zile ambazo zimefanyika wakati wa ukoloni pia, kwa sababu sisi tunaishi katika sera ya ukoloni ambao tunaona kama tunajiongoza lakini tunaongozwa.
Asante,
vile tunavyoongozwa. Yeah.
Asante. Thank you very much for the views and also for the points that you've put across. He's putting across points. You know, we have got to look at ourselves and see where do we go. In terms of our foreign policy.
We played it like Kenyan politics.
Yeah. We have to look at it differently. Kenya has a brand new foreign policy. Okay? It was over 10 years old. We have just launched a brand new foreign policy that's going to take us for the next 10 years. And it's focusing at very many things that we are looking at in terms of diplomacy. What is Kenya's diplomacy going to be like? How are we engaging with other countries? Now, the message that I am hearing from, this particular election, again, losing again, and the votes going the same kind of way that they went for Amina Mohammed that time. Amina was not a divisive figure locally. Right. Amina was, not going there with a lot of political baggage in Kenya. Even at the time when Amina was a candidate, even Uhuru himself was not facing this whole political baggage, to that loud extent in the country. But the country still voted the same way. The Francophone guys went this way. The Lusophone guys, the Anglophone guys were divided, not together. The Muslim countries versus the Christian vote versus... These were factors at play. Now, can we find a way of breaking into that mold and saying that how can we get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 of the 26 Francophone countries to be on our side going forward? What do we need to do to get them that? Because for me, I see... It is the Mount Kenya bloc versus the Nyanza vote versus the Ukambani vote versus the Rift Valley vote. This is what was coming into the pot.
And I think this time it came in still with the baggage. I don't think it was that alone. It was an interesting quote here. Some people create their own storms and get upset when it rains. What storm did we create? What storm did we create?
As we take a break, I'm asking for a friend, Eric. Lusophone countries ni gani?
Wale ambao wanazungumza
Portuguese.
Portuguese.
Okay.
Come on, name one.
So it was me. I was the friend I was asking for. Thank you.
Name one country, for example.
Angola.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mozambique.
Mozambique as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting what he said, though, is how do we strategize better? I think that's an interesting factor to consider, is how we lobbying just, on the continent to be able to win and woo some of those as we move into the next segment on our show.
Thank